All right. Good afternoon / evening-ish. I'm Matthew. I'm an engineering manager at Meta. I'm in the video infrastructure group, so I'm here to tell you a bit more about how we approach the video infrastructure problem at Meta. I believe it is pretty different than most other sort of companies, or at least what I have experienced other companies to do in their infra groups. And I think it's a unique twist on it. This is going to be more of an overview, less of a deep dive. So it's a bit different than Zach's talk, but I hope it triggers an interesting conversation either in the Q&A or afterwards. So let's get started. Before I do, I want to introduce you to a few successful or recently emerging creators on our platform. So this is Alex. She's in the automotive space. I think she's pretty big in Australia, is my understanding. She has a couple tens of millions of followers. She employs 60 people now. She had nothing 4 years ago. On our platform. Now she is running a pretty large business. This is Audrey. She's in the beauty vertical. She focuses more on hairstyling tips for kids. She's earlier stage than the previous creator, maybe 500,000 followers on FB, still pretty successful. And here are some sisters from Minneapolis. Their names are Elia and Radwa. They're in the food sort of vertical, doing some Middle Eastern recipes. They're quite big on IG, still sort of emerging on FB. So why am I talking about this? So while I'm very happy that there's creators like these and millions of others are very successful in our platform, I think that really the question we need to ask ourselves is, how about the other 3 billion people using the app every day? So it's a good start, but we should be able to do more here. So the aspiration thus that we have is actually everybody's a creator. Not just the very visible or successful one, but actually everybody. So what our strategy to get there? The big one is lowering the creation barrier of entry, making it easier to create. So that's the strategy. So how do we get this done? I'll be the first one to admit that I'm a very lazy creator. I'm extremely lazy. I have a bit of a personal story. Last weekend, I spent my entire weekend in the Snohomish Aquatic Center. I don't know if you guys know where that is. This is up north in Snohomish. I'm a proud father of 2 swimmers, 8 and 11. They had the swim meet over there. All weekend long, I sat there. I took a bunch of photos and videos, as any proud parent would. But then the problem, it gets sort of awkward. How do I share this with my friend and family? My family lives in a different country. They want to see how their grandkids are doing, for example. It's just awkward to dump 50 pieces of media on anything and have them sift through them. I know I hate doing that. I don't know anybody that likes doing that. The problem is that sort of curating this is just time consuming, and most of us just don't have the time. So what I did first thing on Monday morning, literally on Monday morning, is I upped onto the app and I tried that recently released feature called Ready-Made Stories internally. I'm not sure what the external name is, and it sifted through my camera roll and it produced this thing. So you guys take a look. Audio here. That was it. That took 6 taps or 7. I lost count. You can see this guy was just burnt out at the end of the weekend. My family was very happy to be able to connect with my kids. And it was just effortless. So that's what we're talking about when we mean, sort of lowering the creation bar. One of the things I neglected to mention in the intro is that everything I'm talking to today is, video infra has a first sort of either leading or critical role in delivering. So this is not just like product doing producty thing, and I'm sort of talking about this as part of the video infrastructure discussion. This is how we look at video infrastructure at Meta. So this is all of that I'll be talking about today has video infra in the leading role, including this one. Another recent thing that is just launching to IG, I believe it's coming soon on other platforms as well, is the ability for creators to basically take anything inside of a photo and extract it out. And then you can sort of swap the background. You can use it as a sticker for other content you want to be sharing. It just makes sharing more engaging and more fun. So that's another thing that is that we've had a critical contribution to rolling out to IG over the last couple of weeks. So lowering the bar for creation or making it easier to create is a good start. But creators are not happy with just that. They also want reach. That's very important because, if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's there to hear it, did it actually fall? It doesn't matter if you're sharing content that nobody that's not reaching to anyone. So how are we thinking about that? One of the first things we did is considered that we had pretty big apps, Facebook and Instagram. One of the things that creators wanted to do is the ability to interoperate between these two apps, right? So how they can have content liquidity across these two things. The fun story is the first way we sort of implemented this is we sort of in the back end re-uploaded the media to the other platform. It kind of worked. It was sort of bad, but it was an okay PMF type of thing. Pretty soon creators noticed that, hey, why is this taking so long to do? Why is the reliability of the initial quality of experience not just like it is on the initial platform? So it's kind of janky. One of the things that we did recently is we sort of re-engineered both of these apps to speak the same language so that when you post across the two different apps, it's more or less just adding a pointer to the same content. So that was a huge amount of effort to pull off, given that these two apps, for those who remember, have a completely different lineage. So getting them to speak the same language was a big deal. And not only not mentioning the amount of cost we're saving, because just processing and storing all videos twice is just not a good use of money. What about across medium, right? We just talked about sharing content across apps, but just a month ago, or about 3 weeks ago, we released this. So the story here is that, so this is an iPhone 15 Pro. It has, Apple recently released the ability to take stereoscopic video from the device, meaning that you use multiple cameras at the same time to create a left eye, right eye, sort of channel in the same video. And these channels are meant to be projected to independent eyes so that on a headset, you have this depth perception and it looks really awesome. So that's great. Obviously, it makes no sense at all on a flat device. There's no way for you to put two channels there. So we had to come up with a way to extract out sort of a flat version of that video and figure out, depending on who's requesting the video, whether that should be a stereoscopic thing or a flat thing. So that was 3 weeks ago, literally. So that was very exciting to be part of that. Great. So we solved all the problems. Creators are creating. They have a lot of reach. And everything is good, right? Yeah, not really. Videos are not cheap. And so if every time somebody uploads a video, you feel like you're throwing $100 out, you sort of are. And so you have to be thinking about efficiency as well. You're not quite done with the creation problem. But just how much scale we're talking about here? Like, does this actually matter in absolute terms? I mean, for us, it does. Just rough orders of magnitude here, not precise numbers, but I think it carries the idea just fine. 1 billion videos uploaded every day. 1 trillion view requests every day. Terabits of second of video egress at any point of time. And trillions of video inside of our inventory. So this is sort of what we're dealing with. Obviously, it's very easy for videos to be cheap. It's also very easy to have amazing video experience. What's hard is to do both at the same time. And so therefore, that's what is one of the problems that we have to deal with. And that connects to video infrastructure's mission within Meta, which is to enable and accelerate products by providing the best-in-class shared media platforms. And we can only do that if we can make costs as less of an issue as possible to products, because otherwise, we gear everybody to create, and then we can't actually pay the bills at the end. It wouldn't be a complete story. So I want to give a bit of an overview about how we're thinking about efficiency. Again, not a deep dive. Happy to have conversations either as part of Q&As or afterward for a bit more detail. But obviously, efficiency is a cross-stack issue. It starts with having the right technology for compute and storage, obviously. Having efficient codecs cannot be ignored. Having the right platform systems and policies is also extremely important. And last but not least, having smart consumption or sort of playback abilities that we'll be looking at a bit more. Just one more level of detail here. For compute and storage, one of the biggest things that the team has achieved that I'm very proud of is we have these custom ASICs for video encoding. I don't want to brag, but the team just earned a technical Emmy 2 weeks ago for this very thing. So this is absolutely awesome. Time shifting is a more sort of widespread technique. The sort of our usage pattern on the service follows a sine wave as most other services, which means that you have these huge trough to sort of leverage. So not all video processing is real time. So being able to tell the delay tolerance of different video processing workloads is essential. Storage tiering is also top of mind. We need to be able to cover everything from in-memory caches with almost zero latency access all the way to cold or very cold storage with various trade-offs on time to first byte, availability, and cost. So all this is part of the mix. Codecs are a big deal when it comes to video, obviously. For us, it starts with quality metrics that reflect the human perception of how good or not good a video looks like. Obviously, objective and subjective are not the same thing. We need to take care of the sort of psychovisual type perception that humans have when they look at moving content. We have a lot of really interesting approaches there that I think are quite novel. Some existing approaches are well known in the industry. They offer interesting trade-off in terms of cost and accuracy. And as I mentioned, the amount of scale that we have, we just can't afford to run VMAF on everything, for example. Codecs, AV1. Meta has been a huge first adopter or pusher for AV1. We have good presence on the OEM in the various different sort of venues. I like to think that because of our broad adoption and sort of delivery of AV1, now we have an AV1 hardware decoder on this guy. And I like to think that we had a significant role to play into this. So this is very exciting. It goes beyond individual codecs as well. You need to have codec agnostic techniques like shot-based encoding to go and optimize your BD rate for different sections of the video. That's also very important. So we have a lot of interesting efforts in there. In terms of platforms, interesting thing about Meta is it's one company, but it's many products. And different products have different takes on where they want to be in the sort of cost-benefit sweet spot. Everybody wants to be on the efficient frontier, obviously. Nobody wants to be throwing money away. But some products will care a bit more about cost, and some products will care a bit more about quality. So we need to be able to express to them different ways they can sort of express this intent without having them needing to employ a fleet of sort of codec experts, for example. So having the right level of abstraction. I mentioned earlier that we have trillions of video. These have been uploaded throughout the last 2 decades with varying levels of technology available at the time. We don't want to be dealing with 55 different versions of the schemas that videos have evolved through over the last 20 years, or different codecs. We want the inventory to be auto-healing and auto-upgrading to the latest technology. So that's a pretty big deal when you have that big of an inventory. Popularity-based processing, also very obvious. We have 1 billion video uploads every day. They're not consumed equally. That is just a fact. We have a fixed amount of resources, so we have a bit of an economic sort of problem to solve there, trying to min-max cost and quality of experience. If we go up or down, depending on how you look at it, on the consumption side, ABR obviously is a core piece of technology. I think the way it interoperates with avoid on cell, the third one, is really interesting. So for various reasons, it's a good problem to have, but we're sort of a significant contributor to mobile network operator costs throughout the world. Obviously, we have a shared interest in minimizing not just our costs, but theirs as well. And so be able to really have a way, when we think about ABR, it's not just whether the network can take it. It's is it really worth it? If I'm going to improve my visual quality by 5%, or like 2 GNDs, but then I need to double my bandwidth, is it worth it? Even if the device could take it. Well, it depends on a bunch of other things. Maybe the quality sensitivity of the user, maybe the viewport size. There's a lot of variables to consider beyond just can the device do it or not. And being a good citizen as part of this mobile network operator sort of landscape is also very important to us. I want to talk about the team because I think the team is pretty awesome. As you can see here, we do all sorts of cool stuff. We like archery and cooking and painting and a bunch of really, really exciting things. So these are awesome set of people. But we're organized in 3 broad pillars. So the first one is the client media platform. So this is where the group that's more sort of mobile focused, because that's how people interoperate with videos nowadays. So thinking about the quality of experience when there's media creation and upload, the various trade-offs there, as well as consumption. The second group is a group I support, so I'm a bit biased. So it's the server media platform group. So this is where we do the workflows, the right abstraction for various different and sometimes very different products, the codec and the quality experience versus cost optimization on the processing side of things. And last but not least is the server media group, which basically builds a set of media-ready, really high performance and reliability building blocks for our platform to build on top of. So all this is absolutely essential for us to solve the problem that I started with, which was creation. Right? We started at creation, but it's really about efficiency as well. So the takeaway that I want everybody to keep in mind is videos is obviously an end-to-end problem. If you're excited about end-to-end solutions, then let's chat. Thank you.
That was awesome. Thank you so much. Questions?
So you mentioned previously you had to upload data from one platform to another, and that's asynchronous, it's slow, it annoys the creators, and so forth. I'm curious, by collapsing everything into, are you now collapsing everything into a single storage system, so you're not also duplicating the same video in multiple places and saving a bunch of money on storage along the way?
Yep, that's exactly what we're doing. I think that the big challenge there was to have both apps have the same data model, like the same way to represent a video. As I mentioned, obviously, Instagram is an acquisition, not a recent one, but it's one nonetheless. They had an existing video system with its own problem instead of legacy, so retooling everything under the hood so that both apps can speak the same language, both in terms of this data model, yes, but also like player capabilities, delivery capabilities. There's a lot of other things in the stack that had grown roots and assumptions about how the previous stack was working. So that was an effort that took the better part of, I believe, 2 years, more or less. But that resulted in instant boosting creator satisfaction, great savings on our infra. So it was just like an obvious win-win for us. So that was a big challenge. In the back.
Andy Rosen, local troubleshooter. Okay, publicist ad agencies, Google, BBC, New York Times are all protecting the public from fake Gen AI. And Meta announced, just before Google joined content credentials, Meta announced you will scan for the I am fake or do not use me to train. Earlier today, I had a positive, encouraging teleconference with, television engineers, and they swore no way this could get deployed, say, before the November elections. Okay, it's public, it's press release. You will be scanning for content credentials and protecting people from fake media this year?
So the question is, when is this going to be released?
Tell us about your deployment roadmap and look, at SMPTE Media Technology Summit just a few months ago, I asked the rude question, and the spokesman for Adobe Web3 said, well, I hope the ad agencies step on the ad-supported campaign dollar payload of irresponsible platforms, maybe this year. Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe. When do you start warning people this is fake or this is confirmed?
Yeah. So Meta, so there's a lot of things going on in Meta. One of the big things going on is obviously there's a lot of things happening in integrity. Integrity goes beyond just videos. It's also about images as well, all sorts of media, external links too, right? So it's not just hosted content on the platform. In video infrastructure, I would say we're less plugged in video in integrity overall, because video is one type of media that the overall integrity org is protecting against. I'm not able to comment on what type of plans or rollout ideas that those guys have. I can check with them to see if there's anything public about this, and I'm happy to share over the next couple of days.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank thank you. Anything that could lift my spirits before, oh, this is laughable, couldn't possibly happen this year.
Yeah.
Please.
Super curious on the one point of curation and auto healing. Like how have you even gotten to the point of the first version of the schema being gone?
No. Well, I guess it depends on when you start counting, really. Like we've been through a few iterations of the schema. So I would say that right now, if I had to count, we probably have like 30 different versions if you go throughout the 20 years. But the first of that, or the oldest of that 30 version, is not as old as videos themselves, right? So it's a bit of a sliding window, so to speak. We have active projects, last year, this year. There's an ongoing thing to sort of shrink the window. There's interesting challenges in being able to go through an inventory of that size in any meaningful amount of time. For example, if the fastest you go through a couple trillion inventory is, say, a year, I mean, you're not going to have a single schema version. We have hundreds of engineers working on this, like they're changing things all the time. And so right now, this is not a solved problem for us.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you have decades worth of video that you have collected over time, and the technology was very different 10 years ago than it is now. Just intellectually curious, if do you guys ever go back and re-encode to minimize the storage on those, or do you kind of leave them in cold storage as is?
Yeah.
And is it worth it?
Yeah. So two-part answer. So when video started at Meta, it was FLV, right? So it was FLV files. That was the only thing that was sort of the currency back in the day. It was a little while ago. Guess what? Like FLV playback doesn't exist anymore anywhere. We don't want people to just lose their content, right? And sorry, like this standard doesn't exist, so I guess all your memories are gone. Sometimes, every once in a while, we have, so there's your second question was on efficiency, but there's also correctness is a concern here, right? So we have gone back and backfilled. Thankfully, it's not too hard to convert FLV to MP4, but we've had done that a couple times in the past. Now there's the efficiency angle too, right? If you're going to be going back and sort of looking at your content, either it's metadata or the actual data, it seems like a great opportunity to compress and explore efficiency trade-offs there. We presented a paper a month ago at Mile High that describes how we're thinking about this. So we are doing this. It's fascinating the amount of trade-offs you have because, of course, when you recompress something, you go through a one-way, typically lossy sort of deal. And so you permanently lose some quality to save some costs. What is the acceptable trade-off here? We have a couple different ways we talk about this. I recommend I can find a reference to the paper and share this to the group.
I have a question about two parts. One is you deal with a lot of user-generated content, which are not the most well-formed files, let's say. So what is the strategy that you guys deal with? And the second part to that is, I was more curious about the ASIC efficiencies, right? I definitely understand that you get a lot of power and efficiencies, but does that also translate to speed, latency improvements, or are you just more focused on the throughput because just the sheer volume of data coming in?
Yeah, okay, good question. So the first one is around, well-formedness of the inputs that we get. Right now, the way people predominantly provide or share content on Meta is through mobile through mobile phones, right? So, and obviously, video infrastructure has a bunch of components in here to go and either recompress, reform, massage the input such that by the time it hits the backend, it is typically well formed. Obviously, we have other endpoints. We have third-party APIs. We have the web sort of endpoint. If you go on Facebook.com or IG.com and you just drag and drop files there, yeah, we get all sorts of fun stuff over there. The way we typically deal with this to avoid teaching all downstream systems about all the interesting intricacies that they might have to deal with is we sort of remaster to a standard format that is sort of a well-known thing out of our, from which we can generate everything else, right? So this sort of standardization to remove, edit lists are something that different things will always trip in a slightly different way, right? So we need to standardize that. Rotation flags, there's a set of things that are just landmines, and we have a sanitization phase where we sort of try to avoid these problems. The second part was ASICs. Yes, we saw like pretty big wins on latency. We didn't do ASIC because of latency. It's a signed benefit. It's awesome. Our latency went average, which obviously doesn't mean that much, but 20-ish seconds on average to 12, I believe the number was. So a very significant reduction. Reliability went up for like some giant files. Obviously, you can always get stuff to work with a software stack. It's just that because the focus of this company is mostly on user-generated content, as you point out, we rarely get these 200 Mbps ProRes type files. So the system is not really tuned for that. But the ASIC is happily churning away at that. So that was a nice side benefit as well.
Are you using the same infrastructure for live as well as the non-live content, or does it just vary?
Great question. So the historical context is, okay, so Meta is an awesome company to work in. Organization is not the strong suit. And so when live came in, there was a lot of urgency in getting this done. It's much easier to write a separate stack than to try to teach a legacy system or sort of an existing system that has to deal with 1 billion uploads a day how to also do live. So that's what we did. That was 6, 7 years ago. I forget a bit. COVID sort of messed up my thing. So we had a separate stack. Obviously, now we don't really enjoy maintaining 2 stacks that are sort of similar, depending on how you look at them. So we've been going through that consolidation phase of starting from the bottom and trying to sort of zip the jacket of consolidation, so to speak. We're not done doing that, but we're getting in a much better place now.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Cool.
Mathieu, thank you so much.